Everyone. Awesome. Over here on the West Coast, it's still morning time. Thanks so much for joining in. I'm excited to be doing the Welcome Wednesday webinar with all of you this morning. A little bit about myself. I am the graduate recruitment manager here at UC Merced. Today I'm going to cover a little bit about our university, a little bit about our mission, our graduate programs, and then really kind of give an overview on wellness and how to take care of yourself while you're in graduate school and things that you should look out for and what to expect. I love to chat with students, so if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them into the chat. Better yet, I would love it if I got to meet you and chat with you. So if you're comfortable at the end, feel free to turn on your camera and turn off your mic, and I'm happy to have a discussion. So with that, I'm going to share my screen really quick. Okay. So Eileen, are we all good? Can you see my screen? Awesome. Okay. Really quickly, applying to UC Merced's graduate programs. So a little bit about UC Merced. I'm going to guess that most of you probably are not too familiar with us or have very little knowledge about our university. So I'll kind of give you an overview about who we are and our mission and a little bit about where we're located. UC Merced is the newest campus within the University of California system. At this point, we're about 17 years old. So we were established in 2005. We are located in California's Central Valley. So for those of you who have been to California or are familiar with kind of Northern California, to give you a frame of reference, we are about 2 hours inland, so 2 hours east of San Francisco, 2 hours south of Sacramento, and we like to say that Yosemite is in our backyard. So we're about an hour away from Yosemite. So it's really cool on days like today where it's really clear and we've had some rain, we can actually see Yosemite from this back area of campus. So back here, if you can see these mountains, that's the Sierra Nevada region. And so we have all types of research happening related to environmental systems out there. And then also it's just like really beautiful. And so here we have a photo of our campus. Since 2000, sorry, trying to think, 2020, our campus has actually doubled in size. When we left campus during the pandemic, half of it did not exist. And so when we came back and we were back on campus, this whole half is brand new. So we have brand new dorms for the undergrads, a brand new dining facility. And then for those of you who are maybe engineers or biologists, we actually opened up our new BSL-3 lab. So that's really changing the types of research that we're able to do on our campus. About me, I work for the graduate division. My department oversees all aspects of graduate studies on our campus. So my job is really to help you kind of navigate this process when you're thinking about going to graduate school. And I'm here to help you from the time you're thinking about applying up until the time that you come to our campus. And then we have a whole staff of people who are here to help you up until when you graduate. So with that, we have 18 graduate programs on our campus. Here we kind of have a distribution so you can see which students, where our students are mostly located. Most of our students are in the quantitative and systems biology program, but they're really spread out across 18 programs. We have 816 graduate students enrolled for fall 2023, and those students come from a mixture of about 38 different countries from around the world. So one thing on our campus that's pretty cool is we really kind of live by that motto of diversity. So our campus was established in an area of California that traditionally was underserved for mostly Latinos who live in the Central Valley. So our campus was established where it was so that we could provide quality research to all kinds of different peoples who haven't had access to that in the past. Next up, when you're thinking about graduate school, I hope that maybe you add UC Merced to your list. And I'll share some reasons today why I think our campus is unique and hopefully gives you some things to think about. So what's cool about UC Merced, since we are still such a newer university, only established in 2005, we really are in this growth phase. But what that means for our graduate students is we're actually able to still offer smaller graduate programs. So you'll find, compared to other graduate programs across the country, we have a very low student to faculty ratio. So you know that if you're joining one of our graduate programs, you're going to be one of only a handful of students in a lab. What that means for you all is that means an increased chances for opportunities, increased chances for things like publications, access to lab resources, increased chances for funding as well. So just kind of think about that. If you are a student that is looking for smaller programs, that you're not really looking to go to somewhere where you're going to be in a lab with 50 other students, definitely consider our campus. Like I've already mentioned, we're a growing campus. So that means in size, physically in size, in terms of our land that we own and what we're building out. So right now, we just this year broke ground on our new medical education building, and that's going to be slated to open in 2026. We own more land than any of the other UCs. So, what you see now is definitely not the way it's going to be in the future. We have big plans for our campus. And I think if you're a student who's kind of looking to get in the ground phase of a program or an institution and really kind of be able to, contribute to the mission, check us out. And finally, one thing about UC Merced that makes us unique is we really focus on interdisciplinary research. So we know that science doesn't just happen when you're in one lab with the same lab mates, only talking to your PI every single day. So what we do on our campus is we really try to design our physical spaces as well as our programs to be accessible for collaboration across the board. So you might be a biologist who is regularly working with students in the chemistry and biochemistry graduate program. Or you might be a psychologist and maybe you even have like a slight interest in maybe like AI and how that affects people. So maybe you're going to be working with faculty in our cognitive and information sciences program. So just kind of think about that when you're looking for programs. If you're looking for opportunities that help you kind of spread your wings and collaborate and not stay pigeonholed in a certain program, look at us and read our brochures, and I'm happy to share those links. But I think that that's something that really makes our campus special. Okay, quickly, here's a listing of our graduate programs. So first up, here's our School of Engineering. Next up, our School of Natural Sciences. And then finally, our School of Social Sciences, Humanities, and Arts. So one thing that I did want to talk to all of you about is funding. So at UC Merced, we offer a full funding commitment for all admitted PhD students. So that's probably one of the top questions I get from prospective students is, how do you fund your students, or what can I expect in terms of funding? So at UC Merced, if you are admitted to one of our doctoral programs, we are going to commit to fully funding you. What that means is your tuition is covered and you are also provided with a living stipend. What's cool about being a student at UC Merced is that you are also a student of the University of California system. So across the board, UC students tend to get paid more than any other graduate student at public institutions across the United States. So, if you're admitted to UC, you're probably going to be getting a really competitive funding offer. What a lot of students don't know is that funding rates, so that would be for like teaching assistant positions or graduate student researcher positions, are the same system wide. So if you come to UC Merced, your base pay rate will be the same as if you were going to any of the other UCs. So just kind of think about that, because what's cool is on our campus, your funding is going to stretch further. We have the lowest cost of living across the board compared to any of our sister campuses in California. So how do we fund our students? If you're admitted to one of our programs for a PhD, you are either going to get funded through a couple different mechanisms. You might get a fellowship, which is the graduate school equivalent to a scholarship. You might get a teaching assistantship. and you might get a graduate student researcher appointment. We also have all types of different grant opportunities or like research programs that you may join that actually offer additional funding in addition to the general program. So if you have questions about funding, I'm always happy to answer those. Another thing students don't realize is that in addition to the actual funding offers, so that would be again tuition and living stipend, you actually also get UC SHIP, which is the University of California's health insurance plan. So that's going to cover your medical, dental, and vision. Next up is campus support. And so I know that one of the talking points for today's presentation was around wellness and how to kind of take care of yourself in graduate school. And one thing that we really try to do on our campus is we try to create programs that support you, like I said, from the time you step foot on campus up until the time you graduate. So on our campus, some of the things that we do is we have a peer mentorship program. So think about it like a buddy system. So essentially, it would be on your first year, you would get paired with a more senior graduate student to be your peer mentor, and that's somebody to help guide you along the way during your first year, help you navigate kind of those ins and outs of being a new graduate student, and also someone that you can go to if you're struggling and not sure how to handle a situation. If you're not comfortable going to your PI or some of the other more formal services, you know that you have somebody else that's there to kind of support you and be someone to help you. On our campus, we also do different types of diversity, inclusion, and student wellness initiatives. So, in my department, we will regularly host like a yoga day to help you get out of the lab and out of your classes and help you kind of get some fresh air and get a little stretching in. We also do social activities. So, we know that part of kind of the wellness aspect of being a new graduate student is making friends and connecting with other people. And so, what my department regularly does is we go to one of the bars downtown and we buy you a soda and we buy you either sliced pizza or hamburger. And we set up a trivia night so that you get to meet other graduate students and kind of get off campus and create connections. Because we know that that's one of the most important things for all of you once you're graduate students is how do you find that balance between working in the lab, teaching your classes, but then also making some time to get to know people and make friends and having fun. So my department, we focus a lot on that. In terms of academics and support, we also provide things like a stats tutor and a writing tutor. We also do things like a professional development course. So for your first year, you could register in this class and you would learn kind of like how to navigate yourself professionally during this first year. So again, we do all kinds of things. We know that health and wellness is one of the top things that kind of gets neglected once you start your graduate studies. And so my department is really here to kind of help you navigate that and make you feel secure and make you feel supported. So if you have questions or if there's certain things you want to know about, drop them into the chat. One thing I didn't mention is that on our campus, we actually offer counselors as well, and we have support groups, counseling support groups. So whether it's UC Merced or any campus, make sure that you're looking at those things when you're applying to graduate school. It's more important than you probably realize when you're in that search process of the right institution to go to. Okay, finally, the last thing that kind of want to touch upon that we've already talked a little bit about is UC Merced is part of the UC family. So when you come to the University of California, Merced, you are part of the most prestigious public university system in the world. When you graduate, your diploma is going to say that you graduated from the University of California. What that means for our graduate students is even though we're a newer university, we have 9 other sister campuses that we regularly tap into for resources, for collaboration. So just know that if you're coming to our campus, if we don't have the tools that you need to conduct your research, we have this wide network of other campuses that we regularly work with to make sure that you have everything you need to successfully do your research and graduate on time. Okay, so really quickly, I'm going to go through these. These are just applying. So I actually need to change this. Many of our graduate programs have actually closed for this cycle. But if you're thinking about applying next year, in general, our general deadline is January 15th and our priority deadline is December 15th. Typically, applications open up in October. And great news, all of you would actually qualify for an application fee waiver. So I'm happy to share that information with you. Our application is pretty standard and pretty basic. We're only going to require a couple things from you. So we're going to require that you have a GPA of a 3.0 or above. If you don't have that, I would still encourage you to apply, but there's other aspects of your application that we'll focus on to kind of help you stand out a little bit more if you have that lower GPA. And in terms of how they're scrutinized, really, for the most part, there's cumulative, unless you're on the lower GPA side, they may look at the coursework that's more related to exactly the program that you're applying to. GRE, for the most part, we've done away with GRE, but if the program you're applying to does require GRE, on our campus, we only ask for the general test. And then on our campus, we're going to ask you to write two different papers. One is going to be a personal history statement, and the other is going to be your statement of purpose. We ask that each paper be about 1 to 2 pages single spaced. And if it helps you to kind of think about what's the difference between each paper, on a personal history statement, it's basically what it sounds like. It's where you're telling the admissions committee a little bit about yourself and who you are outside of the lab. So, or outside of your academics. So you can write about any kind of personal struggles that you've encountered in your life. You can write about what's motivated you and what's pushed you to have an interest in science. But really, it's that part of the application where we get to know who you are, again, outside of your coursework and outside of your transcripts. And then your statement of purpose is where you are going to write about why you want to join a certain program and how you see yourself contributing to the work of that program and what you hope to get out of your graduate degree. It's basically what it sounds. It's your statement of purpose. And think about that one. It's all about the work and the work that you hope to do. We also require 3 letters of recommendation. In general, we hope that you get at least 2 out of 3 of those letters from faculty or PhD level colleagues that you've worked with. If you don't have that, I would just encourage you to then look for people who can speak about your ability to succeed in graduate school. And then finally, one thing that I always tell students is when you're applying to graduate school, it's not the time to be humble. So, what that means is if you have any kind of research experience, or even if you've presented at conferences and you've written papers that you're really proud of, this is the time to kind of shine and make sure that you're letting admission committees know on your application that you've done these awesome things. So, when you're writing your statement of purpose, make sure that you highlight any research experience. Or, like on our application, you can attach papers to it. Or if you've attended at conferences and have kind of a summary that you'd like to attach, you can attach that as well. One thing a lot of prospective students don't realize is the people who are admitting you to graduate school are the faculty. So on our campus, the admission committees are comprised of faculty within each of those graduate programs. So you want to make sure that you're giving them that full rounded experience of who you are, and not being humble about what you've done so that they can, really see that you're a standout and that you're an amazing applicant and why you'd be a great addition to our graduate programs. So things you can start to do now, especially if you're thinking about applying next year. So that would be for fall 2025 admission. And I'm sure most of you probably know this stuff already, but we'll cover it really quick. So what our faculty are looking for on our campus is they're looking for you to connect with them ahead of time. So my advice to you is I'll drop a link into the chat later, a link to all of our brochures. Check out our brochures if you like what you see. Check out what our faculty are doing and just shoot them an email. They want to get to know you even before you apply. And that just helps you, whether it's using Merced or any campus, if you do that and get in touch beforehand, because they're going to know to look out for your application versus if a student never contacted them, and they haven't had a chance to establish a relationship with those prospective applicants, the faculty may not look at those students. So keep that in mind, whether it's UC Merced or another university. Definitely don't be shy and reach out ahead of time and try to figure out if you could be a good fit for any prospective PI. Another thing, pay attention to test dates in preparation. So for all of you, look at which programs may require the GRE. Make sure that you do it this summer. And that'll give you some time too to kind of retake the test if you're not happy with your scores. And then closer to the application deadlines, make sure that you're giving your recommenders plenty of time to write a letter of recommendation on your behalf. Another thing you can do is contact school or get in touch with school contacts and campus resources. So at UC Merced, that would be me, myself, and my colleague Martin Arredondo. Both of us offer one-on-one meetings where we coach students and kind of help you navigate that application process, but more on a one-on-one setting. And then finally, a couple other things to do this next year if you're applying in fall 2025. Take advantage of research opportunities on your campus, and then make sure that you write your essays ahead of time when it's time to apply so that you give people enough time to kind of proofread on your behalf and that you're really happy with the work that you've done. So here's my contact info. And if you want to check us out on social, we are on Instagram and we're working on our TikTok. So you can find us on all the major channels if you want to look us up and get an idea about what our campus is like and, the vibe, what things are like. So yeah, thanks for letting me talk to you all. I don't know if any questions came in, but if not, I'm happy to connect with you all. So let me stop my share.
Yeah, so I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but I do encourage you guys to ask questions, and it can be general questions, especially if you have any questions about graduate school, the application, or even just life in graduate school. We are privileged to have somebody who's like from the source to be able to answer your questions.
Yeah. Whether it's UC Merced or any just the graduate application process, let me know if you have questions. I love talking to students, and so really here to help you kind of navigate this process as you're thinking about it.
So I did have a general question, just so we can break the ice. In terms of just like the transition of graduate school, what do you see students struggle with the most, with that transition, whether it's like
Yeah.
master's or PhD?
Yeah. So I think a lot of times, right, when you're in your undergrad, you are going to classes and obviously you're doing this great stuff, but I think once you make that transition um, to the graduate school level, I think there's a little bit more pressure on you, right? You now have an advisor who's essentially your boss. So, what I tell a lot of graduate students or prospective graduate students is you might think you're still a student, but really you're more of an employee, right? Being a graduate student is your job, and being a graduate student is a full time job. And so, I think it's like wrapping that around your mind, right? That you're now stepping into this role where your PI, think of them like your boss, and your work is now teaching classes, taking classes, and trying to balance because there's so many different layers, right? In one capacity, one hat, you're a student, in another, you're a teaching assistant or you're a researcher, and trying to find that balance of how to wear all those hats properly. Um, and so definitely find ways to keep yourself organized and don't be shy about reaching out early if you are struggling, right? Campuses, whether it's UC Merced or any campus, have all kinds of resources and programs in place. But unless you go out and you're kind of proactive and take advantage of them, you won't see the benefits. So don't struggle in silence. That's kind of my advice. Okay. And I saw we had a question come through as well.
So our question's from Jayla. She's asking, how many classes would you recommend taking while doing an assistantship?
Yeah. So, Jayla, that's a great question. So, I can only speak about UC Merced, but the way that the classes work as a graduate student is you're actually placed in cohorts. So, there's only like a certain amount of classes that you're going to be able to take per semester. Maybe like that first year, that first semester, it might be all core classes. And so, you're going to take the same classes with everyone else. And then maybe elective classes start getting taken in. There's only a maximum number of classes that you're allowed to take on our campus. So it's not like you're going to be able to take, let's just say, 21 units and then be a teaching assistant. Everything is calculated based on your appointment. So it's like, I think you need to take at least 9 units. It could be between 9 and 12 units. But then you would be at a, possibly if you were a teaching assistant, like a 50% appointment time. So that would equate to 20 hours per week. So really there's like this mathematical kind of calculus, and it gets really complicated that you don't need to do, that we do on our end. But just know that you're not going to be bombarded with taking a ton of classes, because there's this balance, and it's up to your program and your PI to help you navigate that balance. So you really work with the program on that.
And I do want to chime in if I can. Um, that yeah, so it definitely depends on the program. Like for example, whenever I was in my program, it was 3 classes, but I did have like that 20-hour max to be able to do an assistantship. Doesn't mean necessarily I have to complete the 20 hours, but I had that wiggle room to do. So it's definitely like they try to schedule it for you, but it also just depends on the program that you apply for.
Yeah. And it's going to change. It's going to change every semester probably for you. So just know that that might be another kind of thing students struggle with, right? Is that like every semester, every year, things are changing a little bit because you're teaching a different class, or maybe you're a GSR. Um, but just know that you have people there to kind of monitor that, make sure that you're not putting too much on your plate. Cool. Any other questions? That was a good question, Jayla.
Questions. So one question I do have is, what can our students now, like as undergrads, do to help prepare them for that transition for graduate school? Like how can they start building habits now? What are some tips that you may have?
Yeah. I think obviously if you kind of are not someone who has figured out systems to kind of keep yourself organized, or just like systems in daily life, start maybe thinking about that. How can you create systems to simplify things so that when you're in school, there's less things that you need to worry about, like at home, and that you're able to keep yourself organized. I think if you have any kind of like health and wellness habits, like physically, if you wanted to start exploring like going to regular class, like exercise classes, or getting out and going for walks and things like that, that might be some good habits to start now, because obviously once you're in school, it's probably harder. I mean, it's probably hard for anyone, right, to create those kinds of habits. But maybe that summer before, like get into that habit every morning, going out 20 minutes and getting your sunshine and kind of moving your body a bit. I think um, it is definitely a transition, and I think that if you could start to think about ways to just really kind of lean into creating healthy habits now, that's going to help you later. It's one less thing to think about, right? Start automating things that you're doing.
Questions. And then feel free to mute yourself as well, guys, if you want. If you're brave enough to unmute yourselves and ask. Maybe this one might be like more of a networking question in terms of like um how to kind of get those strong letters of recommendation. I know it has to do a lot with networking. So how can our students create like those steps and be proactive so that way, maybe they're not rushing in their senior year and trying to get
Yeah.
those experiences and connections.
Yeah. So I think for all of you, if you wanted to start thinking about exactly how do you create those connections. And so I would probably in your classes make sure that you're making yourself visible so that your professor has an idea of who you are, right? The worst thing could be is that you approach them next fall, ask them to write a letter of recommendation, and they can't really write anything about you because they never interacted with you. So in your classes, easy thing to do: ask questions and engage, and don't be shy, and um, try to make those opportunities to connect. And that's probably one of the easiest ways, right? Next thing, go to office hours. Office hours are great because that's going to give you a little bit of one-on-one time where you can ask additional questions, but also maybe share a little bit about what your goals are. And you can even be upfront and just, if you have a couple professors that you know already you'd like to approach about asking a letter of recommendation, you can even ask them now. Just say, I'm thinking about applying to graduate school next fall. You're somebody that I could see myself coming to and asking to write a letter of recommendation on my behalf. Is there anything I can do now that's going to help you write that letter later, or help you feel comfortable speaking about me? I mean, you're going to ask them anyways, and so kind of giving them that heads up, and that helps them think about you too. Helps them when they're interacting with you, kind of have that in the back of your mind. Another thing that you can do when it's time to ask for letters of recommendation, you can maybe type up a short summary about yourself and let them know like who you are and here's some of why I've done well in your classes, and would you be willing to write this letter of recommendation, and give them those talking points so that when they write that letter, they can just refer back to what you've written, right? They can be like, oh, I see Michael's name. I'll pick on Michael. Michael did great on this class. Michael said he got 4.0. I can look that up, but that's really helpful. And yeah, I remember Michael asked some great questions. So you can always do that too when it's time to write your letter of recommendation. Okay, we have no other questions. I'm going to drop my email to the chat. Feel free to reach out to me if you ever want to meet one-on-one, whether it's UC Merced or any of the other UCs. I regularly, work with my colleagues across the system. So whether it's our campus or another campus, I'm always happy to set you up with people you need to talk about certain programs or the application process. Um, yeah, or just kind of help you figure out like, is grad school the right choice for you? I know it's a big decision.
Thank you so much. That was super helpful. Awesome. And guys, I really do encourage you guys to reach out and connect, even if it's not a school that is on your list. Remember that a lot of the requirements are transferable and it's also applicable. And again, you're just building that network and meeting new people, faculty, and things like that as well. And who knows, it could spark your interest in a certain program or at the school itself. So, so with that said, I guess we will end early. If you guys don't have any more questions, you can always reach out to AP or even Ms. Ventura as well, if for any questions that you have. And of course, join in next week for our next Welcome Wednesday. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.